Once again, I'm joined by the, what will I say, unfeasibly talented William Wright. Enigmatic as well, sitting in his gothic mansion there.
This is my cocoon, yeah. We'll eventually you'll fees it. It's only unfeasible until it becomes feasible.
Exactly. And so today we're going to be talking about the last in the Hookland trilogy.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a bit sad, actually. Been there from the start, and we're coming to the end of it, and it's just been this beautiful, mind-expanding journey for me. I just can only imagine how amazing it must have been for you.
Yeah, it was. Well, there was almost this represents what had originally, when I did Salt Mass, I got to the end of the final track, which of course is, the wedding.
Mm.
And I finished it and I sort of exhaled and I was like, okay. And then one little voice in my head said, oh my God, what if he doesn't take the offering? What if the tithe doesn't pass, inspection? Then what happens? And then I just kind of shut the voice off and put it away. And ever since then, it's like, there's this thing everybody's so afraid of, like, what does it look like if things go south, And so finally, as we experience these waves of turmoil around the earth, and of course in America we have these, it's just crisis and crisis and crisis, but within those crises you've got waves of real human kindness and real effort and all of these, the image of the wave, to me, it became completely non-negotiable to go ahead and explore what that purification by water really looks like, and what a real, final chapter to the Salt Mass idea, what it looked like, and of course that was helped along by my longtime collaborator Josh Godin, who did the painting for the cover.
Amazing.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny the words that you're using, because all the way through here, I've got words like what have I got here? Peace but not safe, hiding. I've got things like people hiding, not making a sound, holding their breath. People preparing, shoulders against the barricades. For me, this is a very. All three of the albums are just so different, and I did what I did with all of them, which is basically I put my headphones on, and I just listened, and I just scribbled notes, and I've been listening to it all day today, as I've been drawing. Someone asked me to illustrate a poem they wrote about summer solstice, and I just had this on in the background. And every so often, these waves of, it was brilliant, fantastic, moody stuff. So, I'd like to do what we've always done and just sort of go through track by track, if that's okay.
That'd be great. Yeah, I always look forward to how you process it. Yeah, you listening has become as natural to the process for me as it is to. I make it. I release it, you listen, and then you talk about it. And that's like, you're a piece of the landscape for me now.
It's one of my favorite processes. It's fantastic. So this is, I feel like this album has been the most emotional for me. And I feel like, and although I know you said this is sort of the end of the story, I want to just skip quickly to track 5, because I just put in big letters at the top, questions. questions all the way through it. Every note I put is a question, because it feels like, although it's the end, it's left people with questions. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So the thing that I noticed about the first track is it sort of starts off like, you know, when you see an episode of you know, whatever, a drama or something. Oh, there goes my favorite friend, the train. And they'll do episodes where they'll start with the ending. They'll do that tiny little scene as the cold open.
Mm-hmm.
Then, and I feel like that very first beginning felt like you were giving me a glimpse of the ending. And, you know, and then you sort of get two minutes in, and I feel like you're looking out, and I always put this in the context of where I live and so on. And I felt like I was looking out over the sea, looking at the horizon as lightning, and you'll see lightning off in the horizon. There's no sound, you know, there's no thunder. The wind is blowing the opposite direction. So it's the strangest, eeriest thing.
Yeah.
But the wind will blow the opposite way, so you don't hear anything. You just see this lightning, and all you hear is the lapping of the water. And I felt like sort of 2 minutes in, and there's this sorrowful mourning, and it's like there's a call to the land, but it's far out in the distance. And then we hit that's the end of that cold open, and 4 minutes in, daybreak. It's come to now, you know, and it's daybreak, and the water is sort of calmly forging forth, and the tide is sort of lapping at the shoreline. It's right at the shoreline. It's starting. The day is starting, but there's this undercurrent, and I've written here an undercurrent of murder, an undercurrent of calm, but an undercurrent of dread. And and all the way through, there's this sorrow, there's this heartfelt longing. It's like someone standing there and just looking out, and the tide is just lapping at their feet. And then 6 minutes 45 seconds in, and there's a dead stop. You know, these dead stop, and you're like, whoa. And everything changes. The sea's going out, and it feels like it's taking hope with it. You know, I felt like that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
And it's stolen something from whoever it was, or whoever they are, whether it's one person or multiple people. Everything feels like it's in a dream, but I can feel the water glitters as it's going. But for me, it's taking something. 9 minutes, 15 seconds I've got written in here. The water is distant and the darkness descends. 10 minutes in, dead stop. It's time to start again. That's what I've written down.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think that's, I mean, as usual, you know my work. Yeah, sorry if you have, did I cut you off?
No, that's the end of my notes for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I had, I mean, like I say, you know how to listen to what I do. And so a lot of times I feel like there's not much to explain really. I had a dream. Once I get into the cycle with a piece of music, it consumes my dreams. And I had this this vision sort of like a sea witch, or a group of sea witches throwing shells into the surf, you know, and when the water moves over the shells, it can make silt lines, and it, sort of like casting bones, something like that. Just,
Mm.
Because there's a tension in the wind or something. So they go to the sea to consult with the sea and see what it is. But on this day, instead of making shapes, instead of moving the shells around, the sea wipes it clean. And so they
Yeah.
throw more shells into the tide, and it wipes it clean. It's a warning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The whole thing is a warning,
yeah,
which I've got basically written right at the very top. Track
it's a
one.
warning.
It's a warning. Yeah.
Hmm. It's that quiet power of the sea. Like it is always right there. And it's stronger than anything. You can't do anything about it if it decides to come to your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So on to track 2. I've written at the top a person's lament with a question mark, sitting on a far off hill, watching and remembering. Maybe they're speaking to a child. I feel like he's speaking to a daughter, or someone like that. Speaking of happier times, and I feel like this track lies to me. It gives me a false sense of security, and it's lying to me the whole time, in a beautiful way.
Yeah, we lie to our children. It's one of our most important jobs, is
Yeah.
to lie to our children.
And then all of a sudden you sort of get in, and as it leads up to sort of 2 minutes 20 in, there's this gradual decline. There's this, starts off almost talking about things in rose-colored glasses type way, and then we get sort of 2:20, and that we've hit this gradual decline where there's this creeping decline, this destiny, that this thing that is going to happen. And you get sort of 3 minutes 25 in, and I feel like the last of the people, the last of whoever is there, and they're kind of just left with memories and falsehoods and false sense of security, but all the while scratching at the back of their head, they know that
Absolutely.
the decline has happened.
Yeah, I would, I struggle. I hate to let current events creep in to the foreground of my process, but we had so many virus deniers here in America, and so this piece, of course, is called the Sinking Fields, and this is the aria sort of the whole thing, and that's, to me, that's the, in all of this Hookland folklore, the threat of the king under the sea. You know what I mean? Like within the allegory of the piece, I'm imagining, because we had a lot of our virus deniers of the first wave, they died on ventilators,
Yeah.
and in this piece, I'm kind of imagining the kind of the unspooling of the mind of someone who went out to prove there was no king, there was no threat from the ocean, and suddenly, inland, they're farming, and the soil's wet, and they can't, suddenly they realize, oh my God, like the water is already come past my legs, and I told everyone to be calm, and now it is, like it's too late, like, and so to me, just like the first track is the warning, and in Hookland, you have all of this omenism and all of these legends and all of these warnings, these like natural, these elemental signs and things like that, and imagining within the allegory the people who resist and insist that it's all just a boogeyman for the kid.
Mm.
It's just a bump in the night,
Yeah.
realizing too late you're on that ventilator, you're already on the ventilator, it's too late, it's too late for you to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's the piece.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's like this beautiful lie. It's someone is lying. This song is lying to me about, but undercurrent, that something, it's not right.
Real. The
Yeah, yeah.
realization that that it's the sum of your fears,
Mm. Yeah,
it's true. And
yeah,
that's a hard moment,
yeah, yeah. So track 3, I think, is actually my favorite. And I think it's my favorite because I've got very little notes, which means I spent a lot of time just listening to it and not. But to me, this felt like I don't. This to me felt like this was the story of something or someone running away from the inevitable. And I've got written uncertainty running. The marching will catch up to them. And then I've got 2 minutes, 26 seconds in. Finding some peace, but it's not safe. They're hiding. And I've put a little asterisk next to that. They're hiding. 3 minutes in, nightfall. The armies in the distance. 4:15, early morning, creeping. The peril is still there. 5 minutes in, freedom at last. But maybe that freedom is death, is what I've written there. And that's what I got from that thing. And I know it's not many notes, but it tends to be when I hit that song that really gets me, if you work, I tend to just write these little notes. And it was really quite profound for me because that's what it felt like. And I could almost see it happening. And it felt like someone running through the woods. And although this was all an allegory of something dreadful coming, and the running, and every so often there's a moment of peace, but always knowing that it's not far off, and the only freedom this person or this thing or this event actually have is the end, the death.
Yep, that's the thing we're running from and to every second, Of course, within the allegory, it follows the realization that it's too late, but you have to do something. So you have, the old giant, that's the legendary hill in Hookland. And so I imagined, maybe this wave has formed and is just sitting on the coast like a wall, like on the cover, and it's just sitting there to show everyone the power. And so they're taking high ground.
Yeah.
And you can only take the highest ground you can get. And so there is, there are moments where you get to these clearings, you get to these plateaus where it's like, it feels like relief, but it's sometimes running out of energy feels like relief, because you give everything you can and it has to be enough. And so you have, in my imagination, only so much room on the high ground, and you back out in real life, you've got waves of misinformation, and you have a coronavirus, and you have this creeping fascism, and you have all of these things, and you have the effort to take a higher ground than the wave, and so that sprint, and we're experiencing the social sprint to higher ground, and it is frantic right now because we are also trapped in our houses, like the world is trapped in their house, you know, and the hope is that your house is high enough ground,
Yeah.
you know, because the wave isn't just coming, you know, the water is at the door, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, you hope that your moral fiber is high enough ground to get you above the creeping fascism
Mm.
of your upbringing, you know, of your social structures. You hope that your health and you hope that your work situation is high enough ground to keep you out of a cubicle farm where everybody's going to get sick when the second wave comes. And so it is very frantic, you know. Writing this one was a, you know, I don't really write a lot of stressful music, you know. Generally, whether it's even sad or angry music for me
Mm.
can be fairly glacial, you know. But for me, this, like this piece in this moment, you know, this room got very, the energy in here got very high strung,
Mm.
and I would go upstairs and just go outside, you know, and just um yeah, what a time to be alive. Like that's this
Yeah.
piece. This piece is every bit, you
Yeah.
know, as much as this has to do with, you know, just like everything else in folklore is meant to reflect these moments, you know, whether it's folklore from the Black Plague era, folklore from the Iron Age, you know, like whatever, you know, these important social moments come with so much dissonance and so much fear, and you can only do what you can do, and then
Yeah.
you're, you know, all you can do is run the tank to empty and then be where your car is, you know. And so that's the piece.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So on to track 4. Now this one, four, one, two, three pages worth of notes.
Hmm.
This one um, felt like this is, uh, you know, if you follow the hero's journey, this is the downfall. This is this is the third act. You know, this. You know, this is yeah. So
The bottom falls out.
yeah. So I've got, you know, it starts off as the calm before the storm, and I've got written futility underlined. 1 minute 45 in, um, the disaster's coming. The first um, uh, tendrils of the rush is coming. People are preparing the defense. 3 minutes 26 in, dead stop. Silence, dead stop, and people are looking behind them. They see the danger is still coming, but there's that moment of looking back. You know, 4 minutes in, we kind of hitting this tranquil acceptance, the majesty of what's about to, the horror, but there's a majesty of it. And then 4 minutes 30 in comes softly, holding our breaths, bracing. People are hiding, they're not making a sound, and they're ready. 6 minutes 35 in, dead stop. People bracing against the barricades, their shoulders up against the barricades. The children are being taken far away. The adults knowing the futility of it all, but they have to do something. 7 minutes in, and in it comes. And boy, this is probably the most cinematic soundscape I've heard of yours. Really, I mean, this just felt like, and I've got it written here, it is epic. It is the epic. The sheer weight, the sheer height, and then it bellows in. and everything goes into slow motion. 8 minutes, 9 seconds in, the breach. It's like a whoosh. Everything is breached. Everything goes. 9 minutes in, and I can see the water. I can see the fear. I can hear the voices. It's gray. It's heavy. It's heaving. It's upsetting. 10 minutes 21, the last surges are coming through. 10 minutes 50. And now the surveying, the devastation, and that bubbling loss and confusion and death and stink and unpleasantness and sickness. And I liken it to when you've had a moment of when adrenaline is kicked in for whatever reason, and then it goes away and you get that sickness, you know, when it's draining out of your body, and you just, and that's kind of where I was. And I mean, you know, and I loved the track. And as I said, the most cinematic of all the pieces in the Hookland trilogy.
Yeah. It's and as usual, of course, you see it as it is, you know, it's you know, I think so much goes into the fear of the capacity, and the fear of the greed and the jealousy of the king under the sea, you know, and that when he comes ashore, you know, when the thing kicks the door down, it has to be, you know, it has to be why, you know, the when you watch footage of a tsunami, the casual devastation that when water takes things, it's so much bigger than fire. You know, fire has such incredible limitations. Fire has needs. When fire destroys things, it is its own kind of terror. But nothing, I feel like nothing makes humanity seem smaller or more insignificant than when water takes things, you know. And in my dreams about this, you know, there are two dissonances happening. You know, you have, of course, the king wave is just quietly erasing. You know, all these drums to me represent the culmination of fears, the horror, and the collective heartbeat, this terrorized heartbeat of all these people experiencing the sum of all fears, you know. And at the same time, I think there is an extra dissonance where the king realizes all of the things that make the land, you know, that make him lust after the land. He can never own those things. You know what I mean? And so the rage of that moment, you know what I mean? I think there's a realization in the darkest hour that this destroyer, he cannot own what makes the land his desire. He can't own it by flooding it. And so he just releases the sea to just erase everything, you know. And that rage, not just to say like I'm coming to claim the land, but to realize it can't really ever have it, because as soon as the sea crosses the barrier, it's not the land anymore, you know. And so that frustration and that dissonance is the scariest thing to me, you know. The pathetic dictator. It's this, you know, the story of the pathetic dictator, you know. You can break the people, but you can never own their hearts, you know. And that's, you know, history's scariest villains are the pathetic little dictators that realize they can never cross over.
Yeah. No, I absolutely understand where you're coming from with that. And, all they've got is they surround themselves with those people that will always say yes, because they've got no confidence in what they have to say anyway.
Certainly. They know they're wrong,
Yeah.
and they know, like, they're corrupted by the things that they want and blind to the things they have and what have you. Yeah. It's I'm really proud of it. I mean, it's one of the longest symphonic style pieces that I've written, and try again, like, with this piece being a mirror of what we witness every single day now. It's like, yeah, there is a horror that can only be expressed, I think, in these sounds. You know what I mean? It transcend words, when it all comes undone.
Yeah. I absolutely get what you're saying there. So which brings us to the bittersweet. Sorry.
To the questions.
Yeah. So the bittersweet ending, track 5. And I've written questions right at the top, because it feels like I feel like this song left us with questions, and I've got, will there be another generation? How long has passed? How do we rebuild? Where is the light? And then I've got, sort of 1 minute 10. The people are aimless and wandering. I feel like the ghosts of loss. And then I've put, has anything been learnt? And then I've written why and double underscore underline. Sorry. 3 minutes 40. People are swimming in the undercurrent. And again, I've written why. 5 minutes in, pulling away, letting go. We're left with questions. But will we be able to answer them? And the whole song, to me, is that aftermath. And I've written one last comment, which is the glimmer. And then I've just put 3 little dots at the end. And that was kind of the sigh of relief at the end, that one little glimmer. But all the way through, they have these questions. And it seems to be asking all these questions. And I don't have the answer, and I don't think the song has the answer. But I feel like there is an answer somewhere.
Yeah. There's always an answer for the ones that keep going, right? Obviously the hardest thing in the world is the epilogue, right? The story that goes on. And there is, I probably started the last movement, I started 8-9 times, and every time I just couldn't decide. I couldn't see. I saw everything else in the piece so clearly, but every time I would start, it was just impossible to see what was left. You know what I mean? And I wondered, in the end, if we aren't hearing through the perspective of the stories, through the perspective of the nature, and the light, and how those are the things that endure, and you can't drown a story, and you can't drown a ghost. And I wondered, in the end, all of the nature of the stories of Hookland, you know, and that relationship with the earth and things like that, you know. And if we aren't, you know, we aren't joining them as an audience to the human comedy, you know, the you know, the comedy of errors of birth, life, death, and how everything else moves so slowly and watches people come and go,
Excuse me.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just it, and just wonder, you know, that's the whole thing is
It's
who and what remains when the worst of it goes.
yeah. No, I absolutely understand what you mean, and it left me feeling very quiet and very thoughtful and sad, very sad. Not only because of what the song was saying, but just the closing of that bit of the story. And I really didn't want it to end. I wanted it to be much longer, but I knew that if it was longer, it wouldn't be right.
It would be a different piece of music.
Yeah.
The one that we're listening to, it ends.
Yeah. It's in all its sort of glorious tragedy, I still didn't want it to end.
Well, gosh, what I mean, it's one of those things. The endlessness of the lexicon and the endlessness of the stories. You know, if I were more sadistic, I might have held everyone hostage for 20 years trying to write a tune for every shadow, every old tree with a story, you know. And it feels like giving, you know, I found my place in it all, you know, and giving my town county line, or giving it city limits, you know, ensures that it can be accessed and can be a part of the story moving forward. And I like to occupy a reasonable amount of space, you know. I'm a person that, you know, I thrive on boundaries and things like that. Yeah.
I remember reading an interview with Donald Glover, and someone asked him, why did he leave Community? And he said, everything has to end, and I'd rather end something before I hate it.
Yeah. End it before you hate it, and also end it on your terms, you know. Like controlling, you know, if I continued to, you know, endlessly write these pieces of music until no one cares anymore, and my God, you know, like salt mass is lost to saturation, and all of these little ideas that I've found, you know, a home in, get lost to saturation, and you know, it all, you know, forcing it past its natural limits distorts things, you know. It you stretch your pixels until you can't even see the picture anymore. And so I think he's absolutely right, and I think it's really important, you know, make sure you said what you meant to say. And then, you know, with it's hard to end creative works, I think, in general. I think so many of us get lost in the tweaking and lost in the editing process until you have worked it to death, and you no longer even see your idea anymore. And so giving it boundaries and giving it punctuation like this, you know, I could say more, but I have already said what I meant to say, and now I can be so proud of it, you know. And when I'm on my deathbed, I can look back and know that I didn't leave an open-ended sentence in this work. You know, I made sure, you know, I celebrated David's ideas, and I expressed myself about the world crisis by using these beautiful ideas and turning them into this piece of music, you know, and hopefully, you know, affected lifting people up and expanding minds, and you know, it can and generating connectivity with people like you know, that I wouldn't know if it wasn't for Salt Mass, and for taking this chance and being welcomed by the community and things like that. And so
Yeah, oh, you absolutely should be proud, because I'm always at a kind of, I guess, sounds weird to say, but at a loss for words with it. Although I expound completely, but I always find that I'm a bit lost for words. And
yeah,
I think you should be proud of it. I think it's amazing, and I think everyone should go out and buy it right now. And there'll be links. But before we do that, we've got a giveaway.
yeah, these first 3 people don't have to buy it.
These first people don't have to buy it, because I'm going to buy it for them.
Yeah.
So I've run a little program here that has done a bit of a random thing, and I'm going to send you messages, and you can read out who the winners are.
Okay.
So the first one, running now. There we go. Hopefully you can see the chat window somewhere.
Yeah, I can. I just pulled it up. I'm still a yearling in the eyes of Zoom. But
I'm a dayling, so.
Oh geez, yeah, just still on your little hooves.
Yeah.
So our first winner of my records is Fake History Hunter.
Fake History Hunter. Well done. Congratulations.
Congrats. Enjoy.
And we've got our second one coming up. David.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, David. I think you've already got it.
Yeah. Very random. This program is very random. That's amazing. 10,000 out of 10,000, you picked the guy that wrote the thing.
Okay, here we go. And there we go.
All right. Kat Marion. Yeah.
Congratulations, Kat.
Congrats.
You won yourself 3 amazing albums. And let's see. Last one. It's probably going to be Hookland will be the next one that comes out.
Probably. It'll probably be me. I need a win, actually.
There we go.
All right. And Dr. Trish Nicholson. Congratulations, Doc.
Congratulations, all of you. I think you'll love it. I will send, well, they're not listening. I will send them messages anyway. I'm assuming there's a way I can donate these albums to people.
Yeah, certainly. It's easy to figure out.
Right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it has been a pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We'll have to find a new excuse to talk.
We will. Well, we've got our little project coming up, so I'm going to be animating some stories that you scored.
I can't wait. I listen to those pieces every once in a while, and I cannot wait for people to hear it.
It's been a long time coming, but illness and life and all that sort of stuff. But I'm on it now. I'm rejuvenated, and I want to animate them, get them out there, and get the whole thing happening.
Wonderful.
So fantastic. I'm sure we'll talk again. I'm sure there'll be many other projects that you're working on that I'll be happy to talk to people about.